The ideal slave is one who does not see their chains and serves their master willingly.
Anyone familiar with fuel-free energy might immediately ask, will there be a scheme? There are two answers to this question. Let's start with the first one. There won't be a scheme, but there will be a guiding principle. And the second one? The second answer is that a number of companies from different countries have obtained licenses to produce fuel-free graphene generators intended for powering homes and small businesses. Factories for large-scale production of these generators are currently under construction, with plans to be operational by 2026. However, one question remains unresolved. Will we as humanity have the courage and wisdom to defend our right to live amidst escalating disasters and overcome the internal threat? Right now, this threat, fueled by anti-cult organizations, is planning to create chaos worldwide in an effort to eliminate a significant portion of the planet's population. It's up to us. Remain silent and perish, or start speaking out to survive. We have all the possibilities for this. The year 2026 is set to be revolutionary, not only because of the mass introduction of fuel-free generators, but also because survival without them is impossible. As on December 21, 2024, our planet enters an active phase of a 24,000-year climate cycle. What does this mean? It means there will be shaking and collapsing, flooding with water and lava, freezing with unprecedented cold, and sweeping away with hurricane-force winds all over the planet. This cycle could be the last for all inhabitants of the planet, as long as we have the chance to stop the destruction of the planet. We need to act urgently. The energy infrastructure will be the first to suffer in the face of natural disasters. What is energy for us today? Energy for us is the ability for civilization to exist. Much of our planet is uninhabitable without additional energy. This means that as long as disasters intensify, this ability will diminish.
As the number of natural disasters continues to rise, an increasing portion of the population is experiencing energy shortages. When there is no energy, cities die, industries shut down, and science disappears. At some point, we will run out of resources to restore energy infrastructure and distribution networks. A mathematical model indicates that this will happen around the year 2030. This turn of events is especially dangerous for green energy, which depends on rapid balancing. It will be the first to suffer from natural disasters. Without energy, cities, industries, and science will perish. In such a scenario, we will no longer be able to withstand the forces of nature. But occurring once every 24,000 years.
The fact that our planet is now alive indicates that it has gone through periods of cataclysms many times, both large and small. Now the situation has changed. In previous cycles, excess heat released from the Earth's core was dissipated into space by the ocean. We have destroyed our primary air conditioner. Today, thousands of rivers across the world carry millions of tons of plastic into the ocean. What has this led to? The ocean water column has become saturated with micro and nanoplastics, significantly reducing its thermal conductivity. As a result, less heat is being released into space and the ocean temperature is rising. That leads to increased evaporation, which falls on the land as unprecedentedly powerful rainstorms, snowfalls, and large hail never seen before. The massive floods we are observing all over the world are a consequence of ocean pollution.
Climate has a cyclical nature. It has always changed due to natural causes, but at certain periods, these changes become catastrophic. Such periods are 12 and 24,000 year periods. At present, the planets of the solar system have entered the active phase of the 24,000 year cycle. That raises the question, what causes cyclicity? As the Earth rotates along the solar system within the galaxy, it periodically encounters its spiral arms. During this process, the system interacts with galactic shock waves, which affect the planet in form of cosmic radiation. As a result, galactic shock waves are responsible for the critical periods in the evolution of our planet. All the planets and their moons in the solar system are subject to the effects of galactic shock waves, and these effects are most pronounced when passing through these key points. The primary impact is directed at the planetary cores, causing changes in their magnetic fields and, consequently, internal processes of the planet, which in turn affects the dynamics of the climate system as a whole. The excursions of the core of the planet, in particular the planet Earth, lead to intensify upward movements of magma, which in turn cause the heating of the upper layers of the geosphere. This heating results in the melting of glaciers in geographical areas with the thinnest vertical layers of continental and oceanic crust. Vertical magma movements lead to a significant increase in seismic activity, both on land and in deep oceanic volcanoes. The greatest danger from heightened seismic activity comes from supervolcanoes, whose eruptions could have catastrophic consequences, potentially leading to the extinction of all living beings.
Of people from hazardous zones into new cities. These new cities must be built. They need to be provided with everything necessary. First of all, energy, water, and food. At the same time, science must design and industry must create a space umbrella that shields the Earth from radiation directed towards the core of our planet. We must immediately begin ocean cleanup and volcanic degassing. Consider how much energy will be needed to carry out these projects. The energy challenge will be especially acute in new, uninhabited areas where power lines have not been laid. Don't forget that we lose approximately 30% of energy during transmission. This raises a question. Can we endure the large climate cycle while maintaining our current methods of energy generation? It's important to remember that the construction of new cities will take place amidst escalating natural disasters, which are destroying scientific and industrial capabilities. In other words, we need a significant energy reserve for resilience. Even now, before the climate has fully entered its destructive phase, we live in conditions of constant energy scarcity and are forced to pay for it. In fact, we have to pay for the ability to exist. The tools of this economic stranglehold are hydrocarbons, nuclear power, and hydropower. In the coming years, we will need much more energy than is currently being produced.
As disasters gain momentum day by day, urgent measures must be taken to ensure the survival of humanity. Billions of people need to be relocated from tectonic plate fault zones and other life-threatening areas. New cities must be built in safer locations for this resettlement. The cost of constructing a secure city for 9 million people can be estimated using the example of the Arab Linear City project. The estimated cost of such a city is around $1 trillion. Countries on the Arabian Peninsula will be among the first facing the necessity to relocate their population, followed by China. The relocation of 100 million people would require 11 of such cities, costing $11 trillion. However, the number of people needing relocation is not just 100 million, but far more. In the coming years, this will be necessary not only for China and the countries of the Arabian Peninsula, but also for Italy, the United States, Japan, India, and the United Kingdom. This brings the total construction costs into the tens of trillions. Implementing projects of this scale in new locations will require tremendous energy. It is essential to establish large-scale food production and develop new supply chains for newly constructed cities in the context of rapidly diminishing arable land. To produce food in unfavorable climate conditions, we must undertake mass construction To restore the ecosystems of the planet, it is necessary to transfer all water consumption of humanity, including industrial and agricultural use, to these atmospheric water generators. Simultaneously with relocating populations from hazardous areas, it is crucial to degas supervolcanoes. Degassing can conserve a volcano for many years. We must also relieve tectonic plates to prevent destructive earthquakes. The technologies for degassing and plate relief have been developed. However, in the existing format of society, their implementation is impossible, as they affect the entire surface of the planet, meaning all countries. The main problem of our time is radiation of unknown origin. This radiation emanates from the depths of space and actively heats the cores of the planets in the solar system, including Earth. Modern instruments are unable to detect this radiation. If we want to save ourselves and the planet, We must study this radiation in the coming years and develop protective technology against it. All these measures are absolutely necessary for preserving life on Earth during the peak of the Great Climate Cycle. Implementing these measures is impossible with the existing economic model. If we want to survive, humanity must unite.
We are indeed facing monumental tasks. Addressing them will require a massive increase in energy production compared to what we have now. How will we achieve this growth? Clearly, not with this. Then how? That's a fair question. To answer it, we have conceived this film. Perhaps the technologies for climate stabilization might have brought a smile to some of you. How could we possibly influence continental plates or volcanoes? Let's briefly step away from the main topic of our film and talk about these technologies. It will be useful.
Today, we already have the knowledge and capability to prevent catastrophic eruptions of supervolcanoes that could lead to the extinction of humanity. A volcanic eruption occurs when magma rises and pressure builds from within the volcano's conduit. Once it reaches the surface, the magma flows out. During an eruption, only a portion of the accumulated magma is released, while the remaining magma undergoes a natural compensation process characterized by a series of stabilizing earthquakes of varying magnitudes, which ultimately helps keep the magma from escaping. However, such a natural compensation mechanism is not applicable in the case of supervolcanoes. In the event of a powerful supervolcano eruption, the Earth's crust cannot contain it through the movement of the tectonic plates. Instead, the plate melts and breaks apart. Once the plate has melted, magma under immense pressure begins to flow directly from the magma chamber. The situation is further complicated by the fact that supervolcano calderas are interconnected by giant rivers of magma flowing beneath them. The magma in these flows is under immense pressure and is continuously circulating. This molten river erodes continental plates, continually creating pathways for itself to rise. When magma from a huge magma chamber beneath a supervolcano rises and breaches a tectonic plate, it signals an impending eruption. To prevent this disaster, it is necessary to carry out degassing to relieve the pressure in the chamber. To relieve the pressure in the magma chamber, it is necessary to drill a hole and release the excess magma outward. However, if this is done within the same caldera, instead of stabilizing it, we would activate that supervolcano. The excess pressure will tear open a new channel and trigger an eruption. The outcome of such degassing would be catastrophic for the planet and all life on it. Therefore, drilling must be done in a different location. This location can be identified using satellites and thermal imaging. At this location, we will need to release a significant amount of lava to the surface. As a result, the bubbles that form beneath the supervolcano are relieved, reducing the pressure within them. The cooled magma will act like a cork, sealing off volcanic conduits for thousands of years. To mitigate a major earthquake, it is necessary, first and foremost, to understand where it will occur and, second, to carry out manipulations with the Earth's crust. While the second aspect is more or less clear, as various methods of influencing the Earth's crust have been known to science since the 1970s, scientists have not yet learned to cope with the first part of the task, despite many institutes working 2016. The project collects information about cosmic rays not only from sophisticated scientific instruments, but also from numerous mobile phones belonging to participants of the project. They analyzed cosmic ray intensity data from 2 detectors of the worldwide network of neutron monitor database, located in Troitsk and Finland, as well as from the Pierre Auger Observatory in Argentina, as these facilities are located on opposite sides of the equator and use different recording methods. Scientists identified a clear correlation between the intensity of secondary cosmic radiation and the frequency of earthquakes with magnitudes above 4. Anomalies in cosmic rays were detected approximately 15 days before the onset of seismic activity. The idea of a connection between earthquakes and cosmic radiation from the sun and deep space has a logical physical basis. Vortex currents generated in the Earth's molten core create the magnetic field surrounding our planet. This field deflects charged particles from cosmic rays heading towards Earth. Therefore, if powerful earthquakes are linked to the movement of matter in the Earth's core, changes in this movement should affect the magnetic field and, consequently, the number of cosmic particles reaching Earth. Thus, anomalies in cosmic ray behavior serve as a secondary indicator. The primary indicator is nuclear reactions associated with currents in the outer core, which occur in the mantle of our planet. Any nuclear reactions are accompanied by the release of significant amounts of indigenous neutrinos, which will serve as a primary indicator of an earthquake that is currently observable. Powerful flows of indigenous neutrinos form in areas where lithospheric plates are most closely connected about a month before a natural disaster occurs. The neutrino flow, emerging from the Earth's depths, interacts with the Earth's electromagnetic field above the area of the impending earthquake, disrupting its field lines and turning the field into a sieve-like structure. The holes, created in the electromagnetic field, create conditions allowing cosmic radiation to penetrate the Earth's surface. This process has been confirmed by Polish scientists. How can we detect flows of indigenous neutrinos? Some research groups are already using portable detectors for this purpose. For these purposes, a neutrino power cube can also be used, a fuel-free generator that employs graphene to convert the kinetic energy of particles into electrical energy. An increase in its power would indicate a rise in the particle flow. In other words, such FFGs could serve as sensors for indigenous neutrinos. If such devices are placed around the globe, it will be possible to receive real-time information about where and when an earthquake will occur. To prevent it, the tension in the tectonic plates will need to be relieved. This can be done through a controlled explosion at a great depth. Such an explosion will loosen the plates sufficiently to relieve stress within them. As a result, instead of one strong earthquake with a magnitude of 7 to 8 following this release, we would get several smaller ones with magnitudes of 2 to 2.5. In such an earthquake, all buildings would remain intact and people wouldn't even notice it.
So, we already know 2 technologies for preventing cataclysms. Now let's talk about the third and perhaps most important stabilization technology. The one that will bring our planet's main air conditioner, the ocean, back to life. We must also remove the most significant greenhouse gas from the atmosphere, water vapor. This very technology will require an enormous amount of electricity at every point on the planet. Why? We will have to completely stop extracting water from natural sources and transition to using water that we condense from the atmosphere. To do that, we'll need electricity, lots of electricity.
In recent years, ocean temperatures have risen abnormally. Due to external factors, the planet's core is heating up, but its heat is not escaping into space as it did during previous climate cycles. Currently, The entire body of ocean water is permeated with micro and nanoplastics. This plastic blanket prevents heat from dissipating from the Earth's interior into space. As a result, both atmospheric temperature and humidity are increasing. In a warm, humid atmosphere, more tornadoes, typhoons, and other extreme weather events are formed. Until protective technology against external influences is developed, the heating of the ocean and all its consequences will continue to accelerate rapidly. It is essential to eliminate micro and nanoplastics from the waters of the world's oceans as quickly as possible. This will restore the planet's ecosystem and allow heat to escape freely into space. But how can this be achieved? Filter the ocean? Through intensified evaporation caused by the heating of the planet's core, microplastics and other pollutants rise into the atmosphere. If we stop extracting water from rivers, lakes, and artesian wells and shift all consumption to the condensation from the air, it will enhance the evaporation process, as the atmosphere will be continually drying out. Consequently, more and more plastics will be carried away with the water vapor into the air and subsequently collected by condensation units. In these condensation units, the water will be filtered and returned to the world's oceans, purified of insoluble impurities. Thus, moisture condensers will act as artificial filters in the planetary water cycle. After several years of active use of this technology, the oceans will be cleansed and will once again be able to cool the core. The atmosphere will cool down and become less humid, which will reduce the intensity of hurricanes and storms, as well as decrease the frequency of extreme precipitation. The frequency and destructive power of earthquakes and volcanoes will also decrease. This will save millions of lives and help avoid multi-billion-dollar damages. The key condition for this mechanism to work is the complete transition of agriculture, industry, and the entire population to the use of atmospheric water generators. To accomplish this monumental task, we need to manufacture these units in sufficient amounts and provide them with energy. Can the for domestic consumption, which is only 8% of the total water consumption. To meet humanity's water needs at 100%, we would require 3.8 trillion kilowatts of energy per day. For comparison, the total electricity consumption of the United States in 2022 was 4.082 trillion kilowatts. This means we would need to increase the energy production by at least 300 times in the coming years. But we won't be able to build that many nuclear power plants in time. Does this mean we'll have to rely on hydrocarbon sources to meet this demand? If we take that route, instead of saving our planet, we will ultimately destroy it.
Millions of tons of water evaporating from the overheated ocean begin to fall in vast quantities. However, precipitation occurs selectively, usually in densely populated areas. You might ask, why does it happen this way? Who wants to wash us off the face of the earth? The answer is simple. We do. We have enveloped the world in wires. We've got countless sources of electromagnetic radiation. And where is it most concentrated? In cities. Therefore, moisture tends to fall more in areas where people live. Unfortunately, this will continue to happen and will only intensify. We cannot escape it. Many might suggest supplying atmospheric water generators with energy through so-called green energy sources. Let's examine how effective it is now and how it can be effective during a period of disaster.
Today, it's no longer a secret that the green agenda, which began so attractively 20 years ago with solar panels and wind turbines, is facing complete failure. Nowadays, we are witnessing the opposite process, a collapse of trust in so-called renewable energy sources. Wind and solar power are too unstable to meet the energy needs of many European countries, and not only. The urgent issue of modernizing rapidly aging equipment is already evident. Old wind turbines are costly to maintain and expensive to dismantle for disposal, with the very possibility of their recycling being highly questionable. The same is happening with solar panels. Not to mention the rapid climate changes manifesting as hail, strong winds, and other disasters that are simply destroying them. It's becoming almost impossible to hide the fact that green energy is a multi-billion-dollar global scam. So what are we going to do now? Revert to fossil fuels? Invest in the extraction and development of new coal and oil deposits?
Restoring the oceans will require billions of electrical installations for moisture condensation. Where will we get the energy for them? How can we provide new cities with power if disasters destroy electrical grids, wind turbines, and so we must remove barriers between countries and people and establish a unified planned economy, scientific center, and rescue service. And most importantly, we need unlimited energy anywhere on the planet without wires. Those of you who are familiar with physics and are encountering the topic of unlimited energy sources for the first time may argue that such a thing is impossible. A perpetual motion machine is impossible. It violates the second law of thermodynamics for closed systems, which states that entropy increases. You're right. A perpetual motion machine is indeed impossible because nothing is eternal in this temporary world. Everything eventually comes to an end, including the universe itself. However, engines that do not require an external energy input do exist. They have existed for a long time. Let's say they have always existed without violating the laws of physics. The second law of thermodynamics is valid for closed systems. But what is our universe? What fills the empty space? Does emptiness truly exist where there is nothing? Engines that operate without an energy supply utilize the properties of space, which is a unified whole throughout the universe. Therefore, no violations occur. The system is not closed. The question is merely how to excite this space so that it begins to release energy and how to extract it afterwards. This is the distinguishing feature of the various types of fuel-free generators, or FFGs.
The Christian community of Mathernitha located in Linden, Switzerland, has been generating its own free electricity since the 1980s. This is made possible by the Testatica devices designed by Paul Baumann, which generate electricity for the residents of the settlement. The total power output of the installations is 740 kilowatts. At first glance, the device appears to be an advanced version of the well-known electrophorus machine. The design also contains permanent horseshoe magnets, capacitors, and special diode modules. The efficiency of the Testatica depends on the material and size of its discs. In 1989, I tested two machines, Testatica. It is besides any doubt that Testatica is a perpetuum mobile, which moreover delivers a great quantity in comparison with its size and weight of free energy. I dedicated this machine to the 5th volume of my series, The Thorny Way of Truth, to this machine. During the big spiritual renaissance in the Soviet Union, the community supported my proposal to show the machine to my friend, academician Sakharov, and then to show it with his speech in the Moscow television. However, Sakharov died during the organization of this action. In his letter to the president, Marinov outlines 10 points that demonstrate the falsehood of modern physics, postulates and demands to drop all charges against the company Becocraft, which was engaged in the production of FFGs based on his project. He calls for an open trial, in which he will act as the attorney. Through this fraudulent science, companies, research institutes, and universities are draining billions of marks from the pockets of German taxpayers without even asking for their consent. In the trial, I will accuse all these giant fraudsters, demanding the harshest punishment for their crimes, as their energy sources are destroying the entire world. If his demands are not met, Marinov vows to set himself on fire on the steps of the Cologne prosecutor's office. Stefan Marinov built a small model of the Testatica and was preparing to reveal its operating principle to the world while launching his own engine, Venitin Koliu, through the company Becocraft. However, he was unable to complete his research. On July 15, 1997, Professor Marinov tragically died. According to one version, he was thrown out of a window at the university library by unknown individuals. Cavitation is a physical process that creates vapor bubbles in liquid mediums, which later collapse and release a significant amount of thermal energy. Devices that use the principle of cavitation to generate energy are called cavitation heat generators. The main component of generators of this type is the cavitator. The collapse of the bubbles occurs in the cavitator due to partial pressure reduction associated with the high speed of water rotation, as seen behind the ship's propeller, or when centrifugal pump is spun up. Under the influence of variable liquid pressure on specific areas of the blades, bubbles collapse, resulting in numerous small hydraulic shocks or micro-explosions. This process is accompanied by noise, energy release, and an increase in the temperature of the gas compressed within them, up to 1,000 degrees Celsius. When in contact with the bubbles, the metal of the blades sustains microscopic damage. Over time, the surfaces of the blades and other parts of the ship's propeller or turbine undergo structural damage, resulting in deep cavities and even perforations. Notably, the amount of energy released during this process cannot be explained solely by mechanical impact. In experiments conducted by Alexander Shishkin, radiation of an unknown nature was discovered around cavitation generators. This radiation was termed strange. It was detected in various types of installations and on different materials. A common factor in these experiments was the formation of plasma, which occurs due to the concentration of energy in a microscopic volume. Alexander Shishkin was born on November 9th, 1948, in the city of Lutsk Kirov Oblast. He graduated from the Moscow Engineering Physics Institute. From March 1972, he worked in the Radiation Safety and Radiation Control Department of the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research. He held positions as an engineer, senior engineer, head of the Radiation Control Group for Accelerators, and shift supervisor of the positron in the Nuclear Problems Laboratory. In 1948, he defended his PhD dissertation on the topic Automated Control System for the positron of the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research. He participated in the Chernobyl accident cleanup in 1986. He is an author of 49 scientific publications and 15 inventions. Since early 2002, he has been conducting self-funded scientific research on the topic Characteristics of a New Type of Penetrating Radiation, Methods for Detecting Its Properties, and the Development of the Protective Measures Against It.
This story began in 2003 when I started creating a hydrodynamic machine for synthesizing methanol. When I turned on this device in X-ray films near the device. I set up 2 X-ray films, one at the front and one at the back, and placed another X-ray film. Actually, a packet, right here at the end. Upon developing these films, I was astonished. I discovered X-ray radiation on the X-ray film. This shouldn't have happened, as it was inexplicable. Even if some processes were occurring in the cavitator that led to a significant release of energy, how could X-ray radiation penetrate through 20 millimeters of metal? This was fundamentally unexplainable. Furthermore, the X-ray radiation appeared to be emanating from 2 edges. A small energy-saving bulb consumes about 8 to 10 watts per hour. Here, one structure has roughly 1,000,000 times less energy than what a bulb consumes. But consider the number of these structures surrounding us. There was a physicist named Kenneth Shoulders, an American who published his inventions and discoveries between 1993 and 1995. He claimed to have discovered certain energy solitons. Essentially, these solitons and their quantity in a cubic centimeter of surrounding space could, if converted into energy, provide as much energy as 10 liters of gasoline. Just to put it into perspective, 1 cubic centimeter of this energy exists all around us. We live in a sea of this energy.
The emergence of X-ray radiation at the moment of bubble collapse in liquids is just one of the many mysteries of ordinary liquids we encounter today. In the 1940s, Victor Schauberger discovered another astonishing property of water. Schauberger's installation consists of a vacuum pump, a starting pump, and a small turbine. The turbine rotor is spun by an electric motor, after which a remarkable phenomenon occurs. The water in the system enters a state of self-rotation and continues to circulate autonomously. The motor is no longer needed and can instead be used as a generator for electricity. How did Schauberger manage to make water enter a mode of autonomous circulation without external energy input? It turns out that if the liquid rotates in a specific manner, it presses against the spiral metal walls. This creates a boundary layer. Under the influence of speed and pressure within this boundary layer, remarkable processes occur, including the disintegration of elementary particles. In his letter, which was published after Schauberger's death in 1993 in a special issue of the journal Mensch and Technik, he described his invention as follows: "I have stumbled upon something which perhaps will change the whole of technology and commerce from the ground up. On the 22nd of January, 1936, I was granted a patent, number 145141, for an air turbine, a breathing machine. The principle of this vacuum turbine consists in the fact that an artificial thunderstorm or high-tension electrical charge develops in a capillary tube and a double spiral pipe in which electromagnets have been incorporated, which transforms the substances of the air into electrical energies. These discharge into the sidewalls and from there, through diffusion, are ducted away downwards as heat. Through the transmutation of aeriform matter into energies, a self-intensifying physical vacuum is created in an upward direction, and through the recurring development of a heat gradient in a downward direction, a powerful upcurrent of air evolves, which after a few minutes intensifies to a cyclonic force. This opens the way to the development of fuelless, silently moving aircraft." Yuri Potapov's heat generator closely resembles the vortex tube invented by French engineer Georges Rank in the late 1920s. This tube is used to separate gas into hot and cold streams. The gas exiting the hot end can reach temperatures of 200 degrees Celsius, while the gas leaving the cold end can cool down to -50 degrees Celsius. For over half a century, no one thought to introduce water into the vortex tube instead of gas. When this was done, it turned out that water in the vortex tube also separated into two streams with different temperatures, hot and warm streams. Measurements showed that this device generates more thermal energy than the pump engine consumes to supply water to the vortex tube. This property formed the basis for Potapov's heat generator, USMAR. The main element of the system is Georges Rank's vortex tube. When liquid is pumped through the tube under pressure, a vortex flow is formed, and cavitation occurs. Cavitation heats the water. The effect is achieved. The water is heated, but there remains residual kinetic energy in the water as it exits the heat generator. If this flow is directed into a turbine connected to a generator, we can obtain completely free electricity as a bonus. This is exactly how Potapov's system is designed. As a result, the system simultaneously generates both thermal and electrical energy. In 2009, Italian engineer Andrea Rossi, along with the physicist Sergio Focardi, filed a patent application for a device that generates low-energy nuclear reactions. The actual device, producing 12.5 kilowatts of heat, was first demonstrated by Rossi and Focardi on January 15, 2011. The fuel for this reactor consisted of nickel and hydrogen. Rossi showcased a reactor that sustained a power output of 470 kilowatts in a self-sustaining mode for 5.5 hours. The first installation consisted of 300 modules housed in a shipping container. It required hydrogen cylinders and a significant amount of water to operate. In 2 years, Rossi revolutionized the design of his system. After 2014, it was significantly simplified. Now, the reactor is essentially just a sealed ceramic tube coated with heat-resistant cement, containing a nickel powder mixed with lithium aluminum hydride. To start it up, the tube must be heated to a temperature between 1200 and 1400 degrees Celsius. After that, a self-sustaining reaction begins. Measurements indicated that the heat generated by the reactor was much greater than the electricity it consumed for heating. Over the first 10 days of the reactor's operation, this additional output reached 1,650 watts. The reactor's operation was monitored by an international commission of scientists. A report on Rossi's heat generator testing in Lugano was published in 2014, which raised skepticism and numerous questions among many experts. Among them was a group of Russian scientists led by Alexander Parkhomov. Based on hints scattered through Rossi's report, they managed to replicate the results. In December 2014, an article about independent production of Rossi's reactor in Russia was published on the ECAT World website. This article also included a reference to a report titled Investigation of an Analog of Rossi's High-Temperature Heat Generator by the physicist Alexander Parkhomov. This report was prepared for a nationwide seminar titled Cold Nuclear Fusion and Ball Lightning. The key innovation shared by Parkhomov's group in their report was the information that the reactor tube must be made of ceramic. Other materials failed to yield results. Since then, scientists around the world have managed to replicate these results more than 10 times. The ability of permanent magnets to perform useful external work, such as lifting metal objects, has been known for centuries. This capacity of magnets to do work without depleting their magnetic properties has long attracted numerous enthusiasts attempting to harness magnetic energy. The fundamental principle behind such devices is the manipulation of a rotating or static magnetic field. This field has developed since the last century, when the Belgian inventor Zenobe Gramme laid the groundwork for modern generators, including those created by John Searl and the Russian Godin device. In 1870, inventor Zenobe Gramme made a significant breakthrough. He created a new type of generator that was the first in history to generate direct current on an industrial scale. His device featured a steel ring with a toroidal winding that rotated between the poles of a stationary electromagnet. This machine did not merely produce electricity, it opened the door to a world where more electrical energy was generated than was consumed for mechanical work. This generator became the prototype for many of today's FFGs. In 1994, Russian engineer Alexander Frolov upgraded Gramme's generator by placing a rotating primary coil in the center of the design, which created an alternating magnetic field. He wound two secondary coils on a fixed ring core, positioned diametrically opposite each other. In 1996, Frolov presented the results of these experiments at the conference New Ideas in Natural Sciences. Since 1994, he has been seeking investors to implement his device. In August 1999, a group led by Stefan Hartmann from Germany successfully replicated Frolov's setup and achieved over 1,200 watts under load with only 140 watts input. They connected an electrical motor to the generator, which consumed 9.2 amps at 117 volts under load. After conducting these experiments, Hartman claimed on his website that they had violated Lenz's law. The name of John Searl is known to anyone involved in the development of FFGs. Searl is an unrecognized English scientist with a challenging fate. If his discoveries are implemented, they could revolutionize not only energy and transportation, but also fundamentally alter the course of human development.
The purpose of this demonstration is to prove that if you put the materials in the right quantity, together in the right order, you can get a static force strong enough to propel other products around itself. If you can move another product with a magnetic field to pass through coils, then you introduce electricity. So this is a prime mover. That does away with your petrol engine, diesel engine, and everything else. This will keep running basically forever. There's no wear or tear. The input is around here, and mainly at this time, what we want to show is the rollers running around this thing. That's what our target is, to show that we can put some coils there. There's your electric light, and prove that you don't have to buy petrol and that to get electricity or from the mains. That's purely just to convince people scientists are wrong. And the beauty of it is that it is in different layer structure. Scientists say, well, if you can do this like that, surely you can just mix them all together and you get the same result. You don't. It won't do it. You've got to do it this way. The technology, to get it right, uses this form of mathematics. Its term is the law of the squares. It is a combination of a line of numbers shown here. It could be any line, vertical, horizontal, diagonal. Each number will represent the quantity of material. Well, material must be set up in such a manner that there is a flow of electrons from the storehouse through to the outer edge. It's that I was able to fulfill what the dream is saying, is to get this technology on, to be able to get to people in danger and save their lives, because we have the speed, we have the energy to do it. The bug with an earthquake is it takes so long to get help to those places. The cost is so high, and generally you don't have the power tools to work with. It takes time. Just getting a disc, get all the tools there, all the power, and immediately you have got lives saved. You save lives. Again, in a burn case, you're in so much pain. If the ambulance had this engine device on them, it means as soon as they're in there, within minutes, the pain is eased. That alone is a godsend, and they're immediately beginning to heal.
John inspired people to look to the skies and gained the opportunity to build a device that had appeared in his dreams since childhood. He claims that everything in nature operates according to strict laws, but we fail to see them. We can't see them because our conventional education has made us blind. By filling our minds with stereotypes, we've lost the ability to wonder, to search without bias, The dynamo effect of planet Earth has been studied by various researchers over time, and it has been associated with the circulation of heterogeneous composition, temperature, and viscosity of masses in the Earth's mantle. Study of our planet's internal structure have identified several distinct layers that rotate relative to one another, producing a planetary dynamo effect. Additionally, processes similar to cavitation and various nuclear reactions constantly occur inside the Earth under high pressure and temperature, leading to the formation of new substances. The internal structure of our planet is not yet fully understood. The inner core of the Earth, in particular, remains a mystery. Some researchers believe it resembles a neutron star. The rotation of these layers generates centrifugal, magnetic, and gravitational forces, primarily driven by heterogeneities and gradients. Researcher Valerie Etkin noted that in all devices with an efficiency greater than 1, spatially heterogeneous media are used as the energy source and working fluid, which contains gradients. In addition to force fields, such sources can include polarized or magnetized bodies, semiconducting or stressed materials, and ionized gases. The additional energy currently emerging from our planet manifests in increased seismic and volcanic activity, and has chaotic and destructive nature. To harness this energy effectively, it is essential to study the principles underlying the FFG Earth system. While scientists do not yet fully understand how planetary electricity is generated, we can observe, study, and utilize energy produced by the FFG Earth systems, such as atmospheric electricity. Air is a good dielectric, but due to cosmic rays and other ionizers, it conducts electricity, albeit very weakly. As a result, there is a continuous leakage current through the atmosphere from the massive capacitor formed by the ionosphere and surface of the planet, which carries a positive charge to Earth. Although the electric current density in the air is only a few microamperes per square meter, there are very many square meters on the Earth's surface. The total electric current reaching the Earth's surface at any time is very nearly constant at 1800 amperes. This current, of course, is positive. It carries plus charges to the Earth. So we have a voltage supply of 400,000 volts with a current of 1800 amperes, a power of 700 megawatts. However, to harness the energy from this giant generator, it is necessary to somehow connect an energy consumer to it. The 1920s and 1930s were rich with such ideas. Hermann Plausen built on Nikola Tesla's idea for connecting machinery to the wheelwork of nature. In his experiment, Plausen raised a balloon to a height of 274 meters or 900 feet and managed to extract about 400 volts with a current of 1.8 amperes. The balloon was made of thin aluminum sheets punctured on the outside with needles. These needles served to ignite a corona discharge which ionized the surrounding air. This drastically increased air conductivity, allowing the surrounding atmosphere to be used as a source of electricity. Plausen noted, 100 such balloons should generate around 70 kilowatts in the summer and up to 280 kilowatts in winter. Later, he continued his experiments and built a more powerful version of his atmospheric energy collector in the Alps between two peaks, for which he obtained a patent. He outlined the essence of this technology in his book, Extraction and Utilization of Atmospheric Electricity, which was published in 1920. The book is available for free access. Knowing the tragic circumstances that befell previous researchers, modern creators of FFG installations prefer to remain anonymous. The founder of the resource Laser Saber, the successor of Plausen, took the same approach. He conducted an experiment using a hexacopter drone to lift one end of thin electric wire to a height of about 30 meters or 100 feet, while the other end of the wire was connected to an electrostatic engine, part of the corona electrodes of which was grounded. That was enough to get the engine running. A key feature of such motors is that their efficiency increases sharply with the size of the rotor. Static electricity has been a significant issue in aviation since its inception. Due to air friction, an airplane in flight accumulates a charge ranging from 200 to 300 microcoulombs, which means its potential increases to 200 to 300 kilovolts. But instead of harnessing this energy, modern efforts focus on neutralizing it by any possible means. As early as 1927, Nikola Tesla proposed properly positioned or carried by the plane, energy is drawn into these circuits, much the same as fluid will pass through a hole created in the container. No fuel of any kind will be required, as the propulsion will be accomplished by light electric motors operated at great speed. Modern composite multi-layer materials could transform the skin of an aircraft or spacecraft, traversing streams of charged particles at high speed, into a stable source of high-power energy. Thus, fuel would only be needed to gain speed. Thereafter, the aircraft's body would act as a static collector, supplying the required energy for electric engines. Nowadays, FFGs that harness energy from particles continuously flowing towards Earth from space are beginning to take tangible form as operational installations. And what if such an FFG were to move at high speed? Obviously, it would gather much more energy. Perhaps this type of FFG is used by extraterrestrials from other worlds who visit our planet. No one has ever seen them flying among the stars in open space. However, there are numerous videos showing UFOs entering portals at high speeds. Perhaps the same principle works here, exciting the surrounding space during acceleration, collecting particle energy, then opening a portal and jumping through space to another star. This concept is explored in detail in the film Teleportation: A Liberated Humanity from the Kaleidoscope of Facts series.
We have provided examples of several well-known directions in creating over-unity devices. The number of such devices and the patents based on them is enormous. It was expected that official science would investigate the phenomena at the core of their work. Instead, what we observe is the avoidance of testing such devices in academic institutions, citing a decree from the French Academy of Sciences dating back to 1775. Once and for all, do not consider such projects. A century after this historic decree, science moved past it and began to intensely study the properties of the cosmic ether. Quantum mechanics emerged, which allowed for the spontaneous appearance of particles from a vacuum. All indications suggested that the French academicians' ban would be lifted permanently, but the opposite occurred. In the 1920s, research into the potential source of unlimited energy, the ether, was completely shut down. Scientists engaged in this topic found themselves isolated. Their articles were no longer published in journals, and funding for their work was cut off. Committees were established to combat so-called pseudoscientific concepts. As a result, we now face a paradoxical situation. On one hand, there is an accumulation of numerous facts that challenge the principle of energy conservation, while on the other, there is an unspoken ban on studying these phenomena. However, the facts continue to accumulate. We have reached the climax of a centuries-long struggle for truth. Either humanity today will discover a source of unlimited free energy and advance as a civilization, or this society of short-sighted inhabitants will perish amidst the unfolding disasters. In the process of preparing our film, we noticed that information about FFG that was accessible just a few years back is now disappearing. At present, the internet only offers fragmented and often distorted information about the inventors. This contributes
impressed with his vitality and sharp intellect. Since his youth, he has been fascinated by energy. He graduated from the Koibchev Industrial Institute with a degree in thermal power engineering and worked for 9 years at thermal power plants, gaining valuable hands-on experience. After defending his candidate dissertation on the theoretical foundations of heat engineering at the Saratov Polytechnic Institute, followed by his doctoral thesis, he became a professor. His key work, Energy Dynamics, proposed a synthesis of sciences based on the thermodynamic theory of energy transfer and conversion processes. Traditional academic science received energy dynamics with caution. In 2013, Etkin founded a non-governmental institute for integrative research, where scientists from around the world are working to create a unified conceptual foundation for modern natural science. The main idea that Valery Etkin promotes in his work is that the energy in fuel-free generators doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from the surrounding space. The space around us is an endless source of energy.
As for research on controlled nuclear fusion, or thermonuclear fusion, this work has been carried out within the framework of an international project for over 50 years. The thermonuclear lobby spends over $1 billion each year, promising to develop even a demonstration lab reactor. However, there is a strong reason to believe that this reactor will produce only as much energy as it consumes for its own operation. A huge army of specialists and maintenance personnel involved in the project in every possible way slows down work on the creation of new alternative ways of generating electricity. As Pauly Whittley remarked on his occasion, I quote, "The vitality of ideas is determined by the number of those who feed on them." You know, if you listen to the opinion of the late Russian academicians, Valery Rubikov and Sergei Kapitsa, the activities of the supporters of the ether boiled down, I quote, "either to deception or to delusion." Personally, I find myself more aligned with Pyotr Leonidovich Kapitsa, who once remarked, "Science is about what can't exist. What can exist is technical progress." Conventional science aligns with the natural desire of fuel and energy industry magnates to delay the introduction of new energy sources. Both science and industry magnates categorize such devices as so-called perpetual motion machines in order to discredit this area of study, supposedly because it appears to contradict the law of energy conservation. As a result, instead of genuine research, we observe the refusal to publish materials on this topic in scientific journals. the formation of various committees to fight pseudoscience, as in Russia and the like. Additionally, persecution of overly active supporters of cold nuclear fusion, well, include the same on the principles of energodynamics. The possibility of creating alternators that harness the energy of surrounding force fields is proved. This form of energy belongs to the primary form of matter, often referred to as ether, hidden mass, the physical, or more accurately, cosmic vacuum, and so on. It exists everywhere and at all times, but it cannot be accounted for, much like the air we breathe. If it could be measured, we would long ago have been charged for breathing. Attempts to create a perpetual motion machine? It's a noble cause, and these devices will eventually be discovered. The ice is breaking, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
If we look back at the period since the creation of quantum mechanics, we see that unfortunately, since then, there have been no fundamental breakthroughs in understanding the structure of matter in official science. We are still treading the same concepts that are nearly a century old. Perhaps this is why research of thermonuclear fusion has not brought us closer to industrial energy production since the first tokamak was created in 1954, despite the tens of billions invested in these studies worldwide. Moreover, science still fails to provide a coherent definition of either field or energy. Instead, it clearly states that energy cannot be created from nothing, nor can it disappear into nothing. Where there is nothing, there is nothing. And of course, no energy. But are there places in the universe where there is truly nothing at all? At this point, we arrive at a paradox. Today, science has concluded that the mass of the universe must be much greater than the mass of the visible stars. This discrepancy is referred to as dark matter, which remains invisible to modern physics, and dark energy. Perhaps this dark matter and dark energy do not exist somewhere in distant interstellar space, but are present everywhere. We just cannot observe these phenomena with current instruments. Perhaps it is this yet unobserved matter and energy that devices like those we mentioned utilize.
According to new physical theory, space is not is the foundation of the universe. The stationary po-particles are invisible. Visible matter is formed by so-called phantom po-particles, which are constantly in motion. Even if an object is at rest, all the elementary particles that make it up are constantly moving. just as our planet, the solar system, and the galaxy move through space. Thus, material objects are constantly shifting in relation to the stationary lattice. As elementary particles made of phantom particles move through the isosmic lattice, they transfer part of their energy and information to the stationary particles or the septon field. The majority of the universe's energy is contained within this lattice. Stationary particles are constantly exchanging energy and information, with all phantom particles passing through the isosmic cell. As a result of this exchange, the phantom particle transfers 10% of its energy to the stationary particle. The structure of the universe is explained in detail in the film Teleportation. And now, pay attention. The main principle behind the operation of any FFG is that conditions can be created in which the stationary particles give energy rather than absorb it. To conceptually understand the essence of phantom viscosity, imagine a stationary framework made up of stationary particles. There are many thousands of these cells in a single micron. And when phantom particles of any material pass through them, not all stationary particles are involved in the process of extracting and redistributing energy and information. However, if the conditions are such that there is a very high density of matter, a high rotation speed, or a complex composite material, then each cell of the septon field in that interaction area must operate. At that moment, conditions are created where more than two phantom particles can simultaneously exist in each cell. A stationary particle can simultaneously extract energy and information from only two phantom particles. If there are more than two in a cell, then all others pass through without losing energy or information. Such combinations disrupt the equilibrium of the universe's framework in that area, causing it to literally start losing its mind. The functioning of the isosmic lattice itself becomes disrupted, exciting the inherent septon field of stationary particles. Consequently, they begin to release energy instead of absorbing it.
Now it should be clear what all the examples of FFGs we provided have in common. Yes, all these methods address a single task: exciting the septon field of stationary and extracting energy from it. The differences lie only in the methods used to excite stationary particles. All the phenomena described occur at the beyond quantum level. Meanwhile, while you've been watching this film up to this point, the climate situation has continued to worsen. Natural disasters are escalating. To our deepest regret, humanity has not managed to transition to the creative society before they began. Therefore, we will have to address the issues of survival, the creation of new technologies, and the unification of humanity all at once. Right now, everyone must take responsibility for their own survival. The foremost question is energy. The principles of extracting energy from the environment and examples of its application are now at your disposal. Today, anyone can engage in developing their own model of an FFG to meet their household energy needs in a time when energy networks may collapse due to natural disasters. As the saying goes, rescue the drowning is the work of the drowning themselves.
Neutrino voltaic power cube is a fuel-free generator developed by German mathematician and entrepreneur Holger Thorsten Schubert. This generator operates without rotating parts. It harnesses the kinetic energy of particles that flow continuously from space and permeate the surrounding environment. Neutrino voltaic is an energy collector. It does not generate energy. It converts energies that are already present. There is a lot of energy around us. The device is structured like a sandwich consisting of multiple alternating layers of graphene and doped silicone. The technology is based on converting the kinetic energy of particles into electricity through the vibrations of graphene atoms that absorb this energy. The advancements in large-scale graphene cultivation have enabled Neutrino Energy Group to implement a project for creating resonator converters called neutrino power cubes. According to the company's president, Holger Schubert, the production of these FFGs will begin at several plants in 2026. The significant investments by the scientific and technological company Neutrino Energy Group in the development of the neutrino voltaic electricity generation technology have led to the transition to the industrial scale production of neutrino power cube resonator converters with net power outputs ranging from 5 to 12 kilowatts, primarily intended for independent power supply for residential consumers. For more details on Holger Schubert's installation, watch the film FFG, The New Era of Free Energy, documentary film on the Creative Society channel. The year 2026 could herald a revolution in energy and mark the advent of graphene-based energy generation. Currently, field resource tests are being conducted on 150 power cubes with net outputs of 5 to 6 kilowatts, demonstrating their stable, autonomous operation in Austrian households. Ongoing research aims to adapt neutrino voltaic technology for creation of an integrated energy generation system built into electric vehicle bodies. This suggests that soon we'll see electric vehicles equipped with energy generating bodies made from metamaterials, and eventually, various gadgets will be manufactured with built-in power sources that do not require charging.
We could end our film here. As Professor Atkins says, the ice has been broken. The principles of how the FFG works have been laid out, and the first kinetic power station is even being constructed in Iraqi Kurdistan. Evidently, other power stations of similar design will follow. But unfortunately, in this scenario, the rest of the distribution energy infrastructure remains the same. This means that people will still be forced to pay for electricity. But such an option is clearly no longer acceptable to us. Energy must be free for the public, industry, and agriculture. We will need a lot of it, very, very much, in the very near future. The year 2026 could truly be a turning point for the spread of the free energy generation, genuinely free energy for all the people on the planet.
Our 5 kilowatt power cube is our first product we're launching on the market. You could say it's kind of a Big Mac for neutrino, the first product to be introduced to the market. When people envision constructing the entire device in a factory, that is indeed a misconception. Nowadays, electronic devices are assembled from purchasing components. This means that various components needed for such a device are already available in the market designed for these types of products. The only thing that is currently not sufficiently available in large quantities are the so-called We have found potential solutions in Southeast Asia. This means there are companies that cannot manufacture the power cube themselves, but can produce these wafers for us as they're the foundation of the technology. To give an idea of the scale, we need approximately 1,500 square meters of wafer surface for the 5 kilowatt power cube to provide sufficient power. There were several difficulties. In the beginning, we were ridiculed. I remember when we first started talking about neutrino energy, and 2 or 3 professors were brought in, who quite seriously stated that neutrinos cannot be captured. At the time when we started working on this topic, we were bombarded with denunciations, many of which were observed. Numerous lawsuits were filed, and our case became something of an entertainment for the judicial system. Now I talk about it with a smile because all of the cases were closed without exception. The prosecution not only dismissed them, but also based their decision on our explanations, acknowledging that now they understood the situation. Then for years, we had to deal with criminal cases. After that, international work began. The charges were dropped, and major partners and investors with large capital came in. But the problems didn't stop there. Then we were accused of money laundering, which led to the fund being frozen or delayed due to our collaboration with scientists from countries that aren't considered part of the right circle. We're still facing challenges due to the conflict in Ukraine. Over the past 2 years, many plans have been disrupted because we work as part of an international team. Our collaborators include physicists and engineers from Russia, India, China, the United States, and other countries. Unfortunately, the political situation has severely impacted our scientific partnerships. It suddenly became impossible to work with highly skilled scientists and universities with whom we had previously collaborated. Even today, at the beginning of November, I can say that a significant portion of our funds is still frozen here in Western countries because we worked for a long time with Eastern European physicists, engineers, and institutes in Russia, who, by the way, are the leaders in the development of carbon derivatives. This is not about hundreds of thousands or millions. We're talking about billions of euros that are artificially being withheld from our group of companies, even though they belong to us, are on our balance sheets, and were earned through licenses and shares. Despite this, we continue to work and move forward under difficult conditions, and we will continue. But today, we're at a stage where it is no longer possible to stop this. The public has understood how this technology works. Even if, let's say, they attempt to eliminate or destroy us as a company, this knowledge already belongs to the world. This achievement we have gifted to the world. With this knowledge, the world can implement this technology. Whether we build PowerCube or someone else will do it in the future, because the blueprints are available. And there is a clear understanding of the process. We have, of course, published patents. We understand that our knowledge is already serving as a foundation for others to work with. And that's exactly why patents exist. To disclose this knowledge and encourage others to make new discoveries based on it. Thus, anyone who is interested today can thoroughly study the patent descriptions.
Today, we're on the brink of a revolution in energy. FFG technology will impact virtually every aspect of human life. It will profoundly influence social processes, ecology, agriculture, science, and industry. Understanding the responsibility to maintain stability in the global economy during the implementation of FFGs, the following conditions must be met. Given the looming energy crisis and the rapid increase in climate-related disasters, it's crucial to conduct an economic analysis for a gradual transition of the global energy sector to FFGs. The shift to FFGs should not trigger a global crisis. Rather, this transition must be made before industrial systems are destroyed by natural disasters. FFGs must become a resource for all humanity. Otherwise, we will not survive. FFGs must be available worldwide, in all countries and to all people on the planet. There must be provisions for retraining numerous professionals currently working in traditional energy sectors and related fields to prevent social crisis.
We are at the point today where you can't stop it. We are at the point today where too many people have understood how it works, says Holger Schubert, creator of neutrino power cubes. Indeed, the toothpaste is out of the tube and there's no putting it back. The news about the imminent start of industrial production of FFGs in various countries is truly groundbreaking. And there's another piece of exciting news. One of the companies that manufactures air conditioners has acquired a neutral-voltaic license to produce units with an integrated graphene power generators. This generator extracts 12 to 25 liters of clean drinking water from the air through condensation. What does this mean for us? It means we are just one step away from launching a global effort to clean the oceans and stabilize the climate. Currently, tectonic shifts are happening, though most people aren't aware of them yet. However, in the coming years, thanks to enthusiast developers, we'll be able using energy harvested from the environment and convert it into electricity through compact devices accessible to everyone. This will become an everyday reality for us, just as wired electricity is today. It will be in every home. We are on the brink of an evolutionary leap from a divided human society to a true civilization. One of the conditions of civilization is access to free energy. This is as essential as the unification of all people and the absence of one group having power over others. But this is just the first stage in the development of a newborn civilization on Earth. The further adoption of FFGs, anyone can make an effort and build their own installation. You already know the principles.